Long after the neon lights dimmed and towering skyscrapers ceased their relentless climb, there remain in Japan's countryside the silent remnants of an era unlike any other, a time when wealth flowed like a hidden river beneath the feet of a nation. These forgotten mountain villages and abandoned roads tell a story not just of economic rise and fall, but also of restless spirits and strange warnings whispered by those who dare travel these paths after dark. Locals still speak in hushed tones of strange apparitions glimpsed at twilight, shadowy figures believed to be yokai, embodiments of the despair and greed that once consumed the land. In the late 1980s, Japan's bubble economy burst forth with dazzling promise, transforming even the most remote corners into bustling hubs of prosperity. Mountainsides saw new roads carved swiftly through dense forests, tunnels tunneled through ancient earth, and once isolated villages morphed into thriving centers for commerce and leisure. But as echoes of laughter and new money faded, these places did not simply disappear. They became haunted landscapes of the past, where the thin veil between the human world and something older seems to tremble. Local legend holds that these abandoned routes are not just relics, but cursed passages where travelers might encounter the kitsune, fox spirits known to trick or guide those lost in shadow. Some roads are said to be watched over by Tengu, mountain gods with fierce faces and crow-like features, whose displeasure falls upon those who disrespect the land's ancient rhythms. Other tales speak of Yurei, restless ghosts of forgotten hopefuls once caught in the frenzy of the bubble, now doomed to wander the empty storefronts and cracked pavement. The warnings are clear, but often unspoken. After nightfall, one should avoid these roads, for the spirits hungry for attention or justice are said to grow restless. This belief was not proof, but it shaped how locals viewed these places, giving rise to a deep sense of unease around the remnants of the bubble's glory. Some say the land itself remembers the speculative madness and clinging hubris, that the yokai emerge where human pride once soared highest. In mountain villages abandoned as suddenly as they blossomed, moss-covered torii gates stand crooked beneath the overgrown forest canopy. Shrines once thronged by new money prayers now face quiet solitude, their once bright offerings turned to dust. These are not simply lost towns, but spaces where the spiritual and the material history fuse into a lingering atmosphere of mystery. People passing through report cold chills and fleeting glimpses of beings half seen out of the corner of the eye, perhaps the mountain gods or the kappa lurking near forgotten ponds that once promised leisure. Even the newly paved roads, once symbols of progress, are sometimes called haunted highways in folklore, for those who navigate them after sunset have told of strange lights and eerie sounds carried on the wind. Some versions of the story claim these are not mere tricks of the imagination, but warnings, an echo of an unstable era whose real consequences could not be outrun. The rapid expansion of Japan's bubble economy in the late 1980s left a striking imprint not just on the country's skylines, but also on its rural and mountainous regions. Ambitious construction projects stretched deep into the forests and hillsides, with new roads and tunnels carved through landscapes long untouched by modern industry. Many of these routes were built hastily, driven by speculation and the promise of endless prosperity. Yet, amid this unnatural surge, local beliefs about mountain gods, known as Yama no Kami, and shrine curses began to resurface with renewed intensity. These ancient spirits were thought to govern the balance between humans and the natural world, punishable by misfortune if disturbed or disrespected. Folklore tells of shrines that had long been peaceful resting places becoming sites of restless energy after the trees and earth around them were torn apart for development. In several mountain villages, locals whispered of angry Tengu who had been roused from their hidden sanctuaries. These crow-faced spirits are traditionally seen as guardians of the mountains, yet they could also be vengeful toward those who ignored the deep traditions tied to the land. The belief that these supernatural beings exacted revenge was not proven fact, but it shaped a cautious attitude towards the new infrastructure slicing through the wilderness. The region's sealed tunnels, in particular, became focal points of eerie stories. Originally intended as shortcuts linking prosperous towns, many were closed abruptly after financial collapse or structural concerns. Over time, some tunnels gained reputations as haunted passageways. Stories spread of travelers hearing disembodied footsteps, seeing shimmering figures just beyond the light's glow, or feeling an oppressive chill that seemed to come from the stones themselves. These phenomena were often linked by locals to Uriai, restless spirits of those who had once dreamed of fortune but vanished amid the bubble's fall. Near abandoned roads, small shrines overgrown with moss stand as silent reminders of promises made and broken. Visitors sometimes report fleeting glances of kitsune, fox spirits that are said to guard secrets and test the intentions of the living. The fox's ambiguous nature in folklore, both trickster and protector, mirrors the uncertain fate of these forgotten developments. Behind these legends lies a landscape marked by disappearance and silence. Towns that buzzed with investment and excitement became ghostly, their streets empty and stores shuttered as debt claimed the dream. Yet the local fear extended beyond mere economic failure. Some versions of the story hold that the land itself was cursed, the greed of the bubble era awakening age-old mountain gods who no longer tolerated human hubris. These beliefs are entwined with warnings passed down through generations to respect the forests and the ancient spirits that dwell within them, or risk inviting misfortune. Even today, inhabitants near these deserted zones maintain an unspoken reverence for the invisible forces believed to linger in the shadows. Strange disappearances and unsettling sensations reported near sealed tunnels and deserted highways feed this cautious respect. Even decades after the bubble economy's dramatic collapse, the stories surrounding these forsaken roads, tunnels, and abandoned villages continue to hold a quiet but compelling place in Japan's cultural imagination. Locals and visitors alike speak of these places with a mixture of reverence and caution, as spaces where the echoes of past excess seem to have left a deeper mark than just empty structures and cracked asphalt. In the realm of folklore, the restless spirits said to haunt these sites serve as metaphors for the sudden unraveling of fortune. The kitsune, tengu, and uriai that linger at the edges of perception embody the unpredictable forces of fate and consequence that once overwhelmed communities. They remind us that human ambition, when unchecked, risks awakening powers beyond understanding. This spiritual memory often expresses itself through warnings woven into local legends, cautioning against arrogance and disrespect toward both the land and the invisible forces animating it. These tales are not just ghost stories, but reflections of a societal reckoning with the bubble's excesses, a recognition passed down through shadowy folklore that prosperity gained too swiftly can be just as fragile as it is dazzling. Shrines left to the ravages of time become focal points of this mystic remembrance. Their moss-covered torii gates and weathered statues seem to mark thin places, thresholds where the boundary between the living and the spiritual blurs. Visitors frequently describe moments of stillness, as if the air itself carries a weight of unspoken regret. Some speak of sudden chills beneath ancient cedars or faint whispers that vanish before full understanding can take hold. These sensations echo the traditional belief in the Yama no Kami, mountain deities who observe human deeds with quiet judgment. The folklore suggests that these spirits remain vigilant, especially where the land was scarred by the rush to expand and conquer during the bubble years. In this way, the wilderness resists erasure, reasserting its ancient presence against fleeting human ambitions. Similarly, sealed tunnels and neglected roads retain their eerie reputations. Called haunted highways in some local tales, they seem to act as liminal spaces where time itself feels warped. The old tarmac often serves as a stage for fleeting shadows, whether interpreted as Tengu guardians, kitsune tricksters, or uriai bound to their shattered dreams. The origin of these stories is difficult to pinpoint, but their persistence highlights a collective unease toward the sudden collapse and abandonment. They function as cautionary landmarks within the rural landscape, silent admonitions against forgetfulness and the blind faith in progress. For those who traverse these routes after dusk, the atmosphere remains charged with an intangible presence, something watching, waiting, or perhaps mourning. Ultimately, these haunted places and the legends that surround them offer something unique, a living spiritual archive of Japan's bubble era, encoded not in textbooks or monuments, but in quiet, mysterious ways. They invite reflection on how prosperity, when taken for granted, can invoke a spiritual reckoning that lasts long after fortunes vanish. In the dusk light along forgotten roads, in mossy shrines nestled deep in the forest, the bubble's memory whispers still.